Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer and I am Skeindeer Knits as a designer on Ravelry. And don't forget my Ravelry group, also named Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to take part in knit-alongs and giveaway and the community and just chatter and getting in touch and all those things. It's just the one place for all of that. So yeah, welcome to my knitting podcast, knitting talk show, knitting blabber show. If you're new here, this is where I sit and talk about knitting for about an hour, kind of weekly, kind of bi-weekly, kind of when I feel like it and have time. I am a PhD student in psychology. I don't like talking about it, but it is a theme that keeps coming up as of late because I'm at the very end of the whole thing and it's a lot of work, and so it means I'm a bit sporadically present, and it means that often I'm able to create a bit of output but I'm not often able to keep up with the input. So thanks for your patience with me, especially those of you who are obviously coming back. Thank you, and thank you for watching. Today a small window of time opened up, and I think a small window of time is all that I need because I think it's going to be a fairly short episode. There's not that much content, but I have finished a couple of things. I am knitting on one new thing. Project Whip is going well, as you can probably tell. I'll get to that when we get to that. First of all, I just want to cover the very short brief admin, which is the Skeindeer Knits garment KAL. The rules are quite simple. For the duration of 2020, you make one or several of my garment patterns, that be it sweaters, cardigans, or my one skirt pattern. Anything that is in garment, in clothing, I don't know what I call the category, but in my design page on Ravelry that I link to below, I have a bundle basically that's called something along those lines, and you can find all the eligible patterns there. And it doesn't matter really, I was going to say it doesn't matter when you start, obviously it has to be this year, but like you wouldn't have had to start back in January, you can start now. And you still have, you know, probably how many days are left of, how many months do I have left? 8 months? 7 months? Whatever, there's still plenty of time, and I'm really enjoying seeing all the finished and works in progress in my Ravelry page. That's just really cool, and I'm seeing a lot of you guys also post them on Instagram and tagging me in them so I can see them. And it's just really cool. Like I think I woke up to 3 finished garments this morning, just this morning, and it just made me really happy. There was 2 Ultra sweaters, there was a sweater hug, and there was also a kosekofta, so that's 4 actually. Wow. So yeah, I hope those of you who are taking part in that are enjoying that, and without further ado, I'm gonna go straight into what I have finished. That was a quick admin. I really enjoy having just one KAL right now. The temptation to start several is definitely there, but I think I need to resist until I graduate. So I have one glaringly obvious finished object because I'm wearing it. This is in Relief, I think, by Isolde Teak, and I really like it. So this is a t-shirt pattern that Isolde has designed. I first saw it at Woolen in Dublin where she was wearing it and made me very interested to knit it. At the time it was only available for people who bought the kits with Isolde's yarn, but now you can just get the pattern, and I did, and I'm wearing it because I finished it. We already said that, Ellie. Yeah. Where do we begin? First of all, the yarn is a very busy, I guess, variegated yarn by Snuggly Stars yarn. Again, I will be linking to my project page, that will be linking to the yarn. It's all possible to dig up. I saw her yarn in a festival last summer, and she had done a t-shirt with that yarn, with that colorway. So the colorway is Blue Rainbow on her merino silk yak base. It's the plied merino silk yak, not a single ply. And she'd done a t-shirt in that, and I was like, you know what, I want that. I want to have a t-shirt like that. And so I got 3 skeins, which by the way, it's a lot of leftovers. That's 80 grams. So I used what? 220 grams for a very boxy t-shirt. not bad. I don't know what to do with the leftovers, but you know, I'll find a way. So there we are. Also, by the way, if I ever look a little bit annoyed or something, it's not you. It's the fact that Mr. Noisy has returned home after being away for a month because, you know, in the spirit of social distancing, he went to see his family. So, you probably won't hear it, but I will, and I will be mad because how hard is it to just like just a bit. But anyway, the t-shirt. I'm gonna try to get up and show you just a bit more, but I am wearing just leggings, so don't, you know, I won't be showing off too much. But yeah, this is basically it. It has been blocked, and by blocked I mean soaked in water, squeezed out the water with a towel and laid on the floor to dry in the shape I wanted it to. That's basically what I do. I think hanging it can make it bias in a lot of weird ways and make it... That was a dog. So yeah, it's very boxy, it's very roomy. I don't know how much ease this thing has on me, but it's a lot. You can see the sleeves have this really cool construction where you pick up a knit in the round for this long and then you roll them over and stitch this panel here. You kind of just graft that together with the panel that you've been working along here. Some simple Kitchener stitch basically. Yeah, I don't know if that's in focus. It's kind of a bit of focus, isn't it? And yeah, it is basically a pattern that starts out very much along the contiguous method, but then it changes once you get down to this point and you split for the front and back and knit just straight. And then you do it in the round under the arm. And I thought that was really clever. Such a simple idea that just worked out really well. Mind you, there was a lot of purling. I mean, you're purling all the way down to here and then you get to do in the front, but then once you do in the front, that's when you work all the way down to from, yeah. It's a lot of purling, so I hope you like purling. I don't, but I actually don't have huge issues with it when it comes to smoother yarns, the yarns that aren't usually in my wheelhouse. But yeah, no, I wanted to have something that is somewhere in between my very light summery garments and my woolly winter layer pieces. And I think this is it. The yak obviously makes it warmer, the silk can make it a bit airier, and the merino sort of somewhere in between. And because it's got a very light gauge, very light fabric, and it's obviously a t-shirt, doesn't cover that much. It's a very nice in-between piece. It's pretty good for April. There was April 25th yesterday, which we all know is the perfect date. So yeah, the yarn is way too kind of busy for my usual taste, but it's exactly what I wanted for this t-shirt. I love it. It's completely unique. It's unique in my wardrobe. It's just something very different. I like it. I did think it was going to be more blue, and it came out having more kind of these very sharp greens. If I could choose, I would have had more of the blues and less of these like flashy greens. They kind of do come up in these bulks, but I did alternate skeins, which I'm really glad that I did, because obviously this would have been much more pronounced if I had not. So yeah, always alternate. I used to really hate alternating skeins until I discovered the helical knitting method. Helical knitting is basically never letting your yarns catch up. So in theory, you know, you have your two yarns, you knit one rounded one, and then you're just about to get to the where you're changing yarn where you left the other one in the previous round. But just stop a bit for and then slip the stitches towards the next yarn and knit from that. This sounds horribly explained in theory, so I really recommend you look up either, what's it called, Arnold Culliford tutorials. That was probably not how you pronounce it, and you can look up Grace of Babel's Yarn. They both have done videos on this, and you can just write in helical knitting, and it's like, it's a very intimidating name. It sounds like something, you know, mathematical, geometrical, sorry. It's so easy. You're gonna wonder why you haven't done this already. Like, it's really simple. So I am using that for what it's worth whenever alternating is a good idea, which is basically always when you're working hand-dyed yarn. And the busier the yarn is, the more you should probably do that if you have the option. I did have 3 skeins, and I wondered for a while, like, how do I alternate a odd number of skeins? But it's obviously really simple. Just when you're halfway through one skein, you break it and join with the other. Then you will have used up the first skein, and then you will be halfway through the one that you joined, so you can join in the first that you dropped off. It's a very poor explanation, but it wasn't really very hard. I don't know if I would have had to, given this is nearly 100 grams, but there we go. Again, hindsight, I wish I'd used this skein more up towards here. This was the one I joined in at the very end, and it has more blue in it, whereas this one has a bit more yellow greens, which I couldn't really tell until I started knitting with it. Now it seems very obvious, but oh well. I really love it. Love the yarn. I love the construction. Isolde always has really interesting constructions, and they're always equally well thought out for all sizes, which is so rare. Like, unfortunately, it's not uncommon, and I don't mean to be mean, but it's not uncommon that designs are best fitted around the mid to upper 30s inches for the bust, and then everyone who falls below that and way above that are sort of given something that isn't ideal. And what I love with Isolde's patterns, and what I strive to achieve myself, is to give everyone an equally well-fitting thing that takes everything into account, which is hard, but yeah, that's something I can pretty much take away from all of her garment designs. I have done one modification, arguably 2. You can take the arguably one first. The pickup rate for stitches for here and around here, there is actually pickup stitches around the neck just to bind off again. The pickup rate was to be 3 stitches out of 4 rows. There's a whole lot of theory around that, but basically it's like a 75% rate, if you will. I actually chose 2 stitches out of 3 rows, which is a 66.6% rate. That may not mean anything to you. One day I'll make a big video out of all this stuff, because it's a really cool like pickup rate theory that I think is fairly simple to explain if I just put my mind to it. But long story short, I basically found that my row gauge had slightly more rows in it to get 10 centimeters. So I found that for me, that pick up 2 out of 3 rows instead of 3 out of 4 rows would be more appropriate, would be closer to that rate. And so when I say weird stuff like, oh, 75% pickup rate, 66% pickup rate, what does that mean? Well, basically, take your stitch gauge, divide it by your row gauge, whatever number is closer to 66 or 75, choose that one. I'm explaining this really poorly. One day it's gonna be better explained. There's probably a book that already does that. But pick-up rates, my goodness, there's a lot of stuff to do with picking up stitches that I think is something I have learned to do pretty well now by experience, but it was a long while where I was just perpetually confused by picking up stitches, because how? Obviously now I would just say, I am sure Very Pink Knits has a video that you can just watch. But it is something I've been wanting to shed more light on, because I think it's something everyone should know. It's something a pattern will assume that you know, and it's something I'm really glad that I now know. So yeah, one day. Related to that, this I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I had a video idea that I kind of aired out on Instagram, and I kind of lost my wanting to make it because it was perpetually misunderstood. So I'm really whiny. But my idea was to make a video going through things that a knitting pattern assumes that you know. However, most of what I got as input for that video was stuff that people wish a pattern would include, which is not what I am asking. It is not what I wanted the video to be about. And I just think like, oh, what if I make the video and it's just going to be full of people just saying, oh, I hate when patterns don't include X, Z and Y. And it's like, well, that's not what I am asking. I want to make either a video or a blog post, not that I have a blog, but you know, detailing assumptions in a pattern that the knitter knows. Like, the needle size is the recommendation only. You should not just choose the needle size stated. That's something that you should know about a knitting pattern. It shouldn't have to tell you this, but not everyone knows it. So it's like that kind of thing I want to talk about. But I think if all I get is just people airing their grievances about what patterns do not include, which is an entirely different subject, I kind of don't want to do it. So I'm still thinking about that. You can tell I've been in isolation for too long. I'm like coming up with all these like extravagant video ideas that have nothing to do with the regular podcasting schedule. At least I'm not short on ideas, but without just getting into that topic now, let's just go into the next finished object. Wait, let's not. Let's cover that modification I didn't mention. Oh my god. Okay, brain, keep up, keep up. The modification that I did, my goodness, is a folded hem. So, I have to get up again and just show you. Here's a folded hem. This is what it looks like. The pattern has a really cool, clever way of having it just end up in a split hem with just pure stockinette. This is obviously not that. This is folded hem, so it's stockinette all the way down there. One purl row that makes it fold. Bit more stockinette on a slightly smaller needle and just binding that off along the back. I think what the pattern suggests you do is really interesting and I am fascinated by it. But the reason I didn't do it is because I am afraid it's gonna roll up. And yes, I know that technique is supposed to make it not roll up, which is what makes it so cool. So why am I still worried? Because I bind off very tightly. I bind off so tightly that I can never choose the bind off method that is, you know, knit one stitch, knit the next stitch and pass that stitch over the previous one, over whatever, you know, the one, the regular one. If I do that, it's gonna look very tight. And I know this is the suspended bind off that is too tight, but I have found my ideal bind off, which is the one where you knit one stitch, knit the next stitch, slip those two stitches back onto the needle and knit them together through the back loop. That one always works out super well. It works out better than just knitting one stitch and knitting it together through the back loop with the next. Like all those other variations, I have found the one that works for me. I'm really happy about it. But that would make it roll, I am pretty sure, because it just introduces that one extra layer of stitches, the one that gets that elasticity in. And I did find that it did for the back of the neck. So this back of the neck here, I have no idea if you can see this, but it does roll over ever so slightly. And I wasn't going to have that for the hem. So there were other ways I could have done, but I am really happy with the folded hem. So yeah, finished object. And now we can go into the next finished item, which was finished immediately after recording the last episode, which I knew it would have been. And that's these baby trousers. They are so cute. This is a pattern by Tina Haugland, aka Strikkesilla. She has a lot of books that are published and found in most Norwegian bookstores in Norway. And there are knitting patterns for kids, but I do think she's coming up with one for adults, which I am so excited about. She's got a lot of cool patterns. I obviously have made this one, so I've done a lot of her knits lately actually. I did this. My sister loved this. So for those of you who don't know, my sister's preggers and we don't know what kind she's getting yet, so I'm just knitting random stuff. This is a bunch of leftovers of Phenol and PT2, which was the former yarn was kind of merged into phenol, which basically means that they discontinued it but put phenol into, they put PT2 into the name of phenol to make it seem like it still exists, but it kind of doesn't. So I was really glad to be able to work that up into these trousers. And now of course my sister wants me to make a matching sweater, like with stripes or something with the same colours, but I have very little left of the grey. Obviously I have infinite white phenol because you always need more white phenol than you think. Just always have like 10 skeins around. It's just, if you're a colourwork lover, whatever you see is your go-to colourwork yarn, just keep a bunch of neutrals around. I have a bit more left than, I have a bit more than 50 gram left of the orange. It's got little short rows in the back. I already talked about that because I thought they were really, really cool. So they raised the back a bit, give a bit room for that diaper bum, so you can see that kind of diagonal, and I love how that worked into the colour work. It's awesome. I hope the legs are long enough because that was a bit up to you kind of thing, so I think it went okay. They're done. They're done, they're done, they're done, they're done. So yeah, it's not really much to say about that. I enjoyed the knit. Whilst I was getting a bit loopy from knitting those legs, it was actually a really quick knit. So that concludes my finished items. 2 items is a pretty good number. I am still kind of struggling with keeping my whip count going into the minus. What I need to do, and I know that's what I need to do, is to go back and work on the old whips. It doesn't help that I keep finishing what I've just started. I have to actually go back. So you know, both of these were things I've started very recently, so I'm just back to, you know, back to zero there. Yeah, so I've done a cheeky cast on again. I've been, you know, locked in here for a while now and spent a lot of time on the great internet and felt very inspired. It was a combination of things. I know Anushka of the Crimson Stitchery, my local London friend who I haven't seen in ages, cast on a Susan Crawford pattern, which is something I meant to do for a long time, but for a combination of reasons I have not. They're not all exactly my style, which means I have to modify, which means I have to use my brain, and it's just, you know, a bit messy. A lot of them are my style, but those are often at a very tight gauge, which means they will take longer, which, you know, is a little bit bad news for all those old whips. So I found the middle ground. I created a little bundle on Ravelry where I collected those that I think will be fairly quick knits, and then I also added 2 that I just want to do anyway. I call it Vintage 2.0. You can find it in my Ravelry project by just clicking via my design page. It's all there. And whilst there was a lot of quick knits there that I could crack on with and, you know, get some stash out, no, I decided that at last I want to do a blouse that has been in my mental queue since 2015. It's the Jan sweater, which is a blouse. I'm knitting this out of Knitting for Olive Merino, which is their light fingering weight 100% merino, which I do not think is superwash. It is very, very soft. It's well plied. It doesn't seem to be pilly that much right now anyway. It's burgundy, so that's great. 250 meters per 50 grams, and it recommends a 28 stitch gauge, which is exactly the gauge of the Jan sweater. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna cast on. And then I cast on, but it has a very long rib to begin with on very small needles. I say that like I used to work on small needles a lot in my beginner knitting days, and now I'm just like, oh, it's smaller than like a 3.5. I don't think I can. It's smaller than a 4. Huh? Like, that's in millimeters, by the way. So I did the rib, and it took me like half a week to get this rib down. And then once I had finished it on Saturday morning, after starting it on Wednesday, I realised that I've cast on the wrong number. I cast on the number for the increases you make after the rib. I realised that when I was going to increase, I was like, I'm not going to increase. I already have that stitch count, and I've been working that stitch count all along while the rib took so long to do. And there's no way I'm gonna undo this, even though it's got 50 stitches too many. There's no way that I am undoing that. So basically the difference will be that it doesn't kind of, it's not gonna be that tight around my waist and have that kind of extra puff out thing just over the rib. And I think actually that might be a good thing for me, because I don't like when things are tight fitting. It helps when it's knit fabric, obviously, because that's quite gentle. But honestly, I think this might just mean that I will use it more. It's honestly, I did not rib back. I thought it's gonna be a bit more of a straight silhouette, but it's still gonna like squish in because it's rib. So I imagine this is still gonna kind of flutter out a bit, just because you go straight into stockinette with lace eyelets. So I'm really happy with it. So let me show you a close-up so you can see the right color, because it comes up a bit dark because it's a amazing burgundy. Like, this is my favorite shade of burgundy right there. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So you can see I'm well into the eyelet pattern here. This is like the center with the V, and then everything is like aligning with that. It's a great blouse, honestly. I'm a bit worried about the boat neck. The boat necks tend to annoy me, even though they're really pretty. I might modify to close it a little bit at the edge here, just to not make it open all the way to my shoulders. You know, you want to hide those unsightly bra straps. So I just think it's going to be really cute. The merino is so fine that I don't think it's going to be too warm. And yeah, I'm hoping I will get quite a bit of wear out of it. And I have about this much left from the first ball of yarn, and I have done this much. Seriously, this yarn goes a long way. I've done this much. This is rib, guys. Right? And this is the size of the ball. They're really small. They're 50 grams, and they can do all of this. I'm like, I love a yarn that goes a long way, because, say after me, that means you get a very light garment that doesn't weigh too much, which will just not discourage you from wearing it and bringing it around. Because I compare my store-bought items and know that they are so much lighter and just easy to pack, and this might just be one of those, and that makes me very happy as well. So I'm enjoying the knit, and yes, as you could probably see, I am working it in the round. Most of the patterns in Susan Crawford's vintage books, I can take out the one I'm working from. This is the one. Most of her patterns are worked flat, because that's kind of what they did in the vintage days. You know, they had their straight needles, and that's kind of the thing. And then you grafted it together. I say graft, there was mattress stitch. There is mattress stitch. And yeah, people talk about how it gives it structure, and obviously that's true, but it's still knit fabric, so I think the importance of said structure is a little bit exaggerated, as someone who comes from the land of always working in the round and always have. People just used massive DPNs to make sweaters back in the day, and they didn't have structure, but people still survived. So I'm doing it in the round to save myself the sanity, because I don't like purling. As I've said, I get more into a flow of things when I can just knit. And the only modification you have to do for that is obviously double your stitch count, preferably before the rib and not after. And change the purl rows that are wrong side rows to just another knit round. So basically the 3 knit rounds between every eyelet row. It's really, really simple. I am really, really enjoying it. Barely have to think, which is welcomed after wrecking my brain over my thesis every day. Yeah, let me just talk you through this book. I have all 3 of Susan Crawford's vintage books. I have Stitch in Time Volume 1 and this is 2. And I have the Vintage Shetland Project. And I love them all. And the Jan sweater is in this book. And this is her. I really hope you can't hear my flatmate on the phone. You probably can't. I can't, and I'm annoyed, because sure, he's allowed to be on the phone this time of day, but maybe not at 3 AM. Maybe he could just like not be on the phone right underneath my bed. Just some thoughts. Oh, look at that's at the back. Oh yeah. So I obviously am not carrying around this massive piece with me, even though I'm literally sat right next to my bookshelf. I have kind of found a very quick and easy way to photocopy it with my phone. I'm sure there are like better apps for this kind of stuff, but I just take photos with my phone and then I put them into Word, Microsoft Word, and I put narrow margins, and then I find the artistic effect that makes it, I forgot what it's called, it's one of the bottom ones, and then it takes out most of the colors and make it very high contrast. And then I just crop it all and make it fit like 1 or 2 pages and print it. Like I don't want to show the pattern, but this is kind of the basic information. And this is just from a phone photo. So can recommend doing that if anyone is working from books. So yeah, stitching time. So there's a lot of pieces like the front piece that is like a piece of art but isn't something I would wear. But then there are other things like this one, which is definitely in my queue. Absolutely love this one. I want to use my Perle crepe yarn, which is a vintage yarn I got recently from Norway. They don't make it anymore. I think it would be really, really cool to use for this one. So that's the Jan sweater, and that's my only work in progress since casting off this thing. Monogamous knitter, who am I even? Someone who's working on a thesis is who I am. Anyway, you don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that. So let's talk about acquisitions before I wrap things up. I have received a couple of things in the mail. One of which is Knit Like a Latvian sock edition. I already have the mitten version, but of course I had to get the sock version as well. I mean, it's just full of colourwork socks. You guys know how I feel about colourwork socks, so it's not very surprising. So this is more of a pattern book than a resource book. I usually tend to go with the resource books, but since I already have the mitten book, I might as well continue collecting. So that's how they get me. And yeah, I haven't actually really gone through the book or anything. There's just not really been time. So I just want to show you. I think it's beautiful. I love the whole Knit Like a Latvian thing. Although, whilst I have not read the patterns in this book, I believe these are the same people who make the Latvian mitten kits. And I think, I don't want to say anything bad about the patterns, but they are very traditionally written patterns that may make more sense to you if you have made a couple of mittens or socks, you know, before. I wouldn't have that be your first colourwork socks or mittens. I can sort of follow them now that I know what they mean, but they are written in the way that patterns have been written, you know, pretty much all the time up until this point. Very sparse, very few words, assuming that you kind of know the ways, but you just need to know the specific of this pattern. Whereas now we're mostly used to very spoon-feeding patterns that you can get from indie designers on Ravelry, and that's a completely different writing style, so don't expect to find that when you go the more kind of folky, traditional, vintagey route. Things will maybe be explained in slightly different ways. So I got this book sent to me from Wild and Woolly. Wild and Woolly actually bicycles the orders around Hackney and neighbouring areas for free. So if you're local, you should definitely take advantage of that, and you can just get your wool fix. So of course, in addition to this book, I did include a couple of skeins. You will have seen this yarn before. This is Kalinka Linen. I have already worked up their kind of more maroon colour. I did that in a summer top last year. I don't know where I put that. I need to get that one out again. And now I got 2 teal skeins and 1 silver grey. I will say the teal was very saturated on the website, whereas it came out more grey here, which actually I don't mind. I really love these colours. It's going to be a, hang on, I have the pattern here. Argyll top by Claire Lakewood. So it's like a striped garter ridge top that you can tie right here. Should probably fit well with high-waisted shorts and skirts and stuff like that. I just really want that to have for the summer. I think it's going to look really cute, and this is the yarn I want to use. You know, it's fascinating with my kind of summer yarns and the linen and stuff, because I don't actually have a linen stash like I have a wool stash. So every year I actually have to buy specific linen colours and quantities for specific patterns, and I think that's kind of how I should work all the time. You should really match the yarn to the project and not the other way around, but I do. So actually I kind of do match the yarn to the pattern most of the times now because I have so much yarn. Yeah, so anyway, Kalinka, it's 100% linen. It's got 320 meters per 100 grams, so it's a pretty standard fingering weight, which is pretty good because a lot of linens I come across are a bit more lacy, so this is nice. I have got a lot of linen, as you may remember. I did get this from Knit with Attitude. Hello. I wanted to try it out on my machine, but so far it's not really gone very well, and I think I just need to do it a bit more slowly. We'll see. I also, you know, I got this from Midwinter Yarns. This is their linen. All of this stuff I'm hoping to get knit up over the summer, have various linen tops to wear so I'm not roasting away. I also got some clothes sent to me. It's like a bit of a pick-me-up I wanted to do. I got a massive order of clothes from Collective when they had their summer sale, and I added way more than I would ever buy at one go, right? Way more than I could afford, because my intention was just to try on lots of things and have fun and return most of it, which I did. And I did actually get, I ended up with a lot of things that I needed in my wardrobe. You know, a lot of it was just for fun and it, you know, I'll send it back. But I ended up with a swimsuit and 2 summer shorts and 2 blouses. Also 1 dress and a skirt, and maybe I didn't need more dresses and skirts, but yeah, I'm really glad that I did that. I'm really pleased with having those shorts. I can combine those with all my knitted tops and they fit. Like, they actually fit. Getting shorts that both fit and is my style and, you know, also go long enough that you don't get the job rub. I have a big bum. It isn't something I experience a lot, so I was really happy to find those 2 pairs of shorts. So just wanted to put that out there. Clothes that fit, yay! Yeah, so I'm kind of dragging things out now. I don't really have much else to say. This was going to be a short and sweet episode, and I need to get on with things, and actually talking at the same time as I hear my flatmate just constantly talking is kind of driving me a little bit mad. It's kind of like listening to 2 different songs at the same time. And he can talk. He talks. He can do this for hours. He's on the phone with someone and it's like a 2-hour monologue. It's fascinating. Anyway, so I hope you're all doing well. I don't have much news to say. I am still, you know, keeping on. Got a really good set of noise cancelling headphones, just trying to get done with my degree and so I can move on with life and things, and hopefully when all this is over, that's going to be, you know, a new era, a new chapter. It's something to look forward to, which is really helpful when things are the way they are. Obviously we're all so far apart from each other, and again, like, I keep just trying to do these little things that make me feel so much better. One of the things I have really actually done, I talked about it last time, but I didn't practice what I preached at the time, and now I've started to do it, which is getting myself ready every day, even though I'm not going anywhere. Put that lipstick on, get dressed in something more than, you know, leggings, and just get dressed in something nice and comfortable, of course, because I am me. I've been like digging up a lot of my various lipstick stash. I tend to just have 1 or 2 regulars in my bag that I use, and I forget the other ones. And I'm just like, oh, I have this one and that one and that one. And I am probably not going to mention what lipsticks I wear because I don't want to be endorsing stuff I have not done any research on for animal cruelty reasons and other reasons. So hopefully you understand that. But yeah, other things I'm doing for like kind of pick me up reasons is I bought a new duvet. This may sound so trivial. I got a new duvet, and you know, I was talking last time, I'm washing my bed sheets more than weekly now because it just makes me feel better and I feel safer regarding the, you know, close moth situation that London is perpetually in. And every time I do, I just look at my duvet without the cover and I think, oh, you've seen better days, I think. I don't know, maybe it was always this bad. Because back when I moved to London in 2011, I had very, very little money. You know, I come from a single parent household, not a very high income at all, and was just gonna live on Norwegian student loan in a London student accommodation in London. I had hardly any money. I even had to borrow money up front from my granddad to pay the rent that I then paid back to him, and I just had very, very little left in the end. So for the first half year, I actually slept in a sleeping bag until I could save up to buy the cheapest duvet possible from Argos, and it served me well for a lot of years. It's kept me warm, it's given me a lot of static electricity shocks, and it's time to go. So now that I can spend just a couple of more tenors on a duvet, I got one that is like actually not acrylic, and I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? So it's just little things like that. It's just a completely uninteresting anecdote. I did the same thing with my pillows, and I just sleep so much more comfortably now. I got fairy lights, I think I mentioned that last time. They actually weren't any good, the ones I got. So I got some that I could actually plug in the wall instead of battery driven ones, because they just ate batteries in days. So I got full on fairy lights that have various settings that make me just feel very cozy when it gets darker in the evening still. Noise cancelling headphones and food. I am actually cooking myself dinner every day now, which is such an improvement from my takeout habits. I am cooking myself a nice vegetable heavy meal every day. I just like to combine a protein with lots of vegetables. That's kind of my go-to dinner, which isn't usually what you get in takeout. So it's been a huge difference. It's been returning to my old ways before my PhD, which I'm like, oh wow, that's actually really tasty. I've been having like duck breasts with salads, or pan-fried cabbage with like this like sesame oil, ginger garlic, soy sauce combination. That's so good. Oh, it's so good. All of this is making me feel better. And for the times when I don't have that much effort in me, I make myself overnight oats, which is just in the evening, combining, you know, a bit of oats, almond milk, a little bit of sweetener, and I put some nut butter in there and some banana slices and put it in the fridge. I'll have breakfast and lunch the next day without any effort. It's just great, just like those little things. I keep saying that. It's the little things, and I do this every time. I don't know what that's about. I even bought a lot of hair products to like style it, which I never do. You've seen it. This is, I washed it. This is what I do with my hair. So we'll see what comes of that. It may be too short to do it now, but you know, in time I may have a bit of fun with that. I'm someone who have never really tamed my hair, so that will be interesting. But with all this to say, it's the little things. If you can do some small things to just make you happy, maybe different things to what is making me happy, yeah, treat yourself like you are your own best friend. That's what I live by, and I also need to practice more because it's helping. So yeah, take care, and I hope I will see you next time. Bye.